Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of the podcast. And today we have, for me, a very, very special guest. Safi is like a brother to me. He's a mentor, and he's somebody who we've been through a lot together. Now, Safi, do you mind giving a bit of a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for the greeting and warm welcome, Shahab. My name is Safi. I'm a 30-year-old digital marketer and marketing consultant currently based out of Brampton, Ontario. I went to university for biology, but slowly but surely transitioned my career over to something a little more business oriented. And aside from my job, I'm passionate about things like fitness, mindfulness, helping people with anxiety conquer their fears, and just sort of living a happy, fun, healthy, adventurous lifestyle
Mhm.
without any bounds.
Awesome. So let's go back to the person you were in high school. Do you mind describing how you were in high school and what led you to choosing the path of biology?
Sure. So thankfully I'm not too old yet, so I still have my memory from back in the high school days. I was pretty shy, pretty introverted. I wasn't really good, or I didn't really excel at one particular thing. I just tried to like choose different things and see what I was good at, but I was never that like particularly talented or athletic at anything. Sort of just your average nerdy Joe, just trying to find his way in life and graduate and move on to the next step. Um, as far as biology, it was mostly parental pressure. Like I'm sure you sympathize as a fellow South Asian, young South Asian male. Our parents pressure us into pursuing careers that are generally considered both lucrative as well as what's the word I'm looking for here? Noble. Um, they carry social status essentially. So basically things like dentistry, medicine, law, engineering, essentially careers where when as soon as you tell people what you do for a living, they understand that okay, this guy's got his shit together, essentially. Now that's something I'm struggling with a bit right now because when I go to fam jams, for example, I do have several cousins that are, they're either doctors or engineers or pharmacists or accountants. And prestige, that's the word I was looking for
Mhm.
earlier. Not noble. There's prestigious careers. They carry prestige, meaning exactly as I just mentioned, as soon as someone tells you they're a doctor, you don't have to ask them what that entails. You know right off the bat that
Mhm.
they're a professional, they probably make a high income, and they carry a very specialized
Right.
skill set. Now,
Mhm.
this is something I currently struggle with because when I tell people that I'm in digital marketing, there's always a how or a why
Mhm.
style question that follows that I then have to give them clarification on until they genuinely understand that okay, Sapi's a hard worker, he's good at what he does, and he's made a name for himself in his career. Um, so obviously, I went on a bit of a tangent there as far as my high school story, but that's sort of what connected my high school story to my current career. The parental pressure led me to pursue biology in university. Halfway through my undergraduate degree, which I still completed, alhamdulillah. Halfway through my degree, I realized that I probably would prefer to pursue something where one, there's a higher salary ceiling. Like, of course, doctors and engineers, lawyers, they tend to make a high salary, but I wanted something where sort of I could push past those barriers and make even more money. And the other thing is the way professional degrees work, like I don't know if your viewers are familiar, but when you become a doctor, first you have to, of course, do at least 4 years of undergraduate study, and within those 4 years, you're also doing extracurriculars. You're probably volunteering at the hospital or at a clinic or something. After that, you do 4 base years of med school. Then after that, you do your residency, and if you want to further specialize, then after your residency, you do a fellowship. Now, the reason I wanted something a career that's more streamlined boils down to two reasons, and obviously I've done a lot of self-reflection to realize the answer to what I'm about to say. One of the big reasons is that I came from a low-income family, so I was like, okay, when shit hits the fan, I'm gonna need money, and it's gonna be a lot harder to for me to get money if I need to be in school for another 12 years. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Whereas now with my career, just a couple of years after undergrad, alhamdulillah, I started to earn an income. And obviously, there was a learning curve and an experience curve and an income curve associated with that. But thankfully, now I'm at a very good place in my career. I started my own consulting corporation late last year. And honestly, things are going well. I can't complain. I think that's one thing. all guys need in their 20s, especially regardless of whether they suffer from anxiety, depression or not, is just show gratitude for what you have, because if you're never satisfied with what you have, you'll never be happy. And everyone asks, what's the key to happiness, and I would say there's no one single key to happiness, but one of the keys to happiness you should have in your keychain is
Mm.
consistent regular gratitude, both for what you have in your life as well as yourself, your mind, body and soul.
What do you think the reason is for Daisy parents applying so much pressure onto their children to follow a particular pathway in terms of, okay, let me rephrase the question
Sure.
to, because I'm leaning more towards understanding why would a Daisy parent want their kids to pursue a pathway that is more legacy based out is the word I'm thinking of, where be a doctor, be an accountant, be a lawyer,
Mhm.
rather than pursuing a passion or going for a career that has a higher income ceiling. Because in all honesty, as but I don't know if the audience knows, my career aspirations are psychiatry, but I know that as a psychiatrist, there's a income ceiling. Why? Because your income, the government tracks very well because you're a public servant. Henceforth, they have
Exactly.
some
You're a
economical.
licensed professional.
Yeah, you're a licensed professional. Therefore, you have bracket creep. The more money you make, the more of a cut the government's going to take. And on top of that, because you're a doctor, you obviously when you get married, your wife's going to be like, I want a certain lifestyle. But if you're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, to an extent, you can sort of fake your lifestyle and have a little distance
Mhm.
between you and your partner, which sounds manipulative. But let's say if you marry a woman from the West, obviously there needs to be a sense of separation.
Mhm.
And that's what I've started to realize in terms of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of ways around anything in terms of taxes. You have a higher income possibility as well. If you start your own business, you can easily
I
cut the
recommend
stuff
to
off.
all my friends, sorry to cut you off. I recommend to all my friends that aren't salary-based workers that as soon as you reach that 70, 80, 90K income threshold, go get incorporated, because
Mhm.
it's going to save you so much money in the long run. A lot of people, like lifelong, they're not salaried, they're contract-based workers, and they never choose to start a corporation and they get destroyed during tax season. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And unfortunately, I growing up didn't have a strong source of financial literacy. I sort of had to learn this all on my own in my mid to late 20s. I didn't really even consider this stuff in my early 20s. And like, who knows how much money I could have saved by now if I did have some sort of like guidance or mentor. You know what I mean? But circling back to your question, did you have any more points to make, or may I answer the question?
Oh, no, no, you can answer the question. I just had one
Okay.
more point to make in terms of you can also do tax write-offs in terms of anything you want to buy for your business.
I bought a gaming PC. I'm gonna write it off, bro. Like the government's not gonna know the difference. You know what I mean? From there, and they're gonna be like, okay, this guy bought a computer because he probably needs one to do his work. But nope, I'm fucking running Counter Strike on that thing.
But don't worry,
Um,
if the CRA is watching, he's definitely using it for work
this
purposes. So
is satire. Okay, this is a parody. This isn't real life.
yeah.
Okay, so as far as answering your question about why do they see parents want us to pursue these lucrative, prestigious careers? Well, first, I want to acknowledge that everyone's answer to this question is going to be a little bit different. My
Mhm.
answer is based on my unique experiences and the life I've lived up until this point. But from what I've seen and what I've noticed, one of the primary reasons is classism. We live in a classist society where social status matters. And obviously, a lot of our parents were raised in South Asia where classism is sort of magnified even more so compared to North America, because there's an even steeper amount of poverty and sort of, I don't want to use the term hopelessness, but sort of like people are trapped back home. You know what I mean? It's like based on where they are, based on what they do for a living. There's a very famous study that was put out a while ago that indicated that the number one determinant to your financial success and the lifestyle you're going to live is where you were born. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that being said, to a degree, if you're born in a third world country, your opportunities are going to be limited, and classism only magnifies that. So that's one reason our parents want us to pursue these careers, is because it'll give us a better social status. It'll give us a higher class, at least a higher class perception by other people. And so
Mhm.
this helps with things like marriage, as you mentioned. Women want to maintain or achieve a certain lifestyle after getting married. When they see someone with a higher social class, like for example a doctor, it shows your potential spouse that okay, this guy can probably provide for me, protect me, and let me live the lifestyle I want. So that's a big part of it is a classism. Second big part of it is obviously money makes the world go around. The more money you have, you know, the more of your goals you'll be able to achieve, the more safety and stability you'll be able to garner with your wealth and your lifestyle. So yeah, classism, wealth. Let's see what else. Man, DC parents love talking shit. You know what I mean? They love
Mhm,
going on the phone. They love talking about what's new, what they're up to, what their son is doing, what their daughter's doing. So
mhm,
obviously it gives them something to brag about. That sort of circles back to the classism thing because it gives them superior status, and obviously they want to show that status off. That's why the Desi wedding industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry because that's one of the primary ways our parents
mhm.
show off their wealth is by throwing
Yeah.
these big extravagant weddings.
Mhm,
I feel like I could go on and on about the secondary points, but that's sort of like the gist of it.
mhm,
They were focused on survival growing up, and the number one resource in their eyes is money, is wealth.
mhm,
So they want us to pursue a lucrative career because of that. I would say that's in a nutshell
mhm.
what my opinion is.
So my next question is actually based on, do you believe that the sense of class comes as an offshoot of the caste system based in India?
Sure thing. So obviously, I know about the caste system in India, but uh, I'm not an expert in it. And the other thing
Mhm,
is like my parents, the way they got married, it wasn't really like based on caste. It was more so based on, oh, our family knows your family, you know, why doesn't your son date our daughter? It was sort of like that. And I think one of the strongest and most important things any man can do on their journey is say, is know when they need to say, I don't know. Those three words are
mhm,
very important. And in this case, Shahab, I'm going to be very
mhm,
honest with you because I'm not an
mhm.
expert in the class system. The answer I'm going to give you is I don't know. Okay. So that's my answer.
Fair, fair, fair. What impact do you think the pressures of finding a prestigious job has on the mental health of young Desi men in particular?
Oh, it's crazy because like a lot of us, you know, we don't have the most affectionate parents. And obviously what little affection we get, we're scared to lose that if and when our expectate or our parents' expectations of us aren't met. You know what I mean? So that's a big
Mhm,
driver of why we pursue these career, why we continue to pursue these careers, even if we don't want to, is that we don't want to make our
mhm,
parents upset. And the other
mhm,
thing is, as I mentioned, I came from a low income family, so that fear that was instilled for me from such a young age that oh if you don't have enough money you're not going to be able to survive and live um,
mhm,
in a manner of stability and security, that's another big motivator. um,
mhm,
and obviously another big thing is comparison. You know, at least for me when I was growing up, my parents, specifically my father, was very comparative between me and my older cousins. So that sort of
mhm,
creates that sort of hierarchy in our minds, and where we're
mhm,
conditioned to believe that, oh, if my cousin's doing this well, that means I should be doing that well, if not more. You know what I mean? Which starts to circles back to the parental expectations. But I would say
mhm,
those are two big reasons. And I just remembered another really, really big point for your
mhm,
original question about why they see parents want us to pursue these careers. Another really, really big reason that I'm sure a lot of your viewers have heard about in the past is that when our parents' goals and dreams for themselves aren't fulfilled, they sort of
mhm,
forward and imprint those goals onto their children, which is very,
mhm,
very hard not to do unless you're a super self aware person who does practice
mhm.
mindfulness and self reflection regularly. That is an inevitability, unfortunately. And that's probably um, something your fellow psychiatrists, well, I shouldn't say fellow because you're not a psychiatrist yet, but that's something psychiatrists would refer to and categorize under generational trauma,
Mhm.
unfulfilled goals and dreams, which are forced and imprinted onto the next generation.
Do you believe it stems from a sense of narcissism where they view their children as an extension of themselves rather than as an individual person?
Absolutely, but there's a difference between subconscious and conscious narcissism. I would
Mhm,
categorize that under subconscious narcissism because
mhm,
obviously not 100% of our parents are assholes, but this is a
mhm,
very common trend we see
mhm,
in our culture. So for that reason, I wouldn't give it a firm definition of narcissism, but it definitely falls under that sort of overall category of behavioral issues. I just don't want to attack anyone personally by calling them a narcissist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. What do you mean by behavioral issues?
Um, well, I mean, some of our parents are show narcissistic tendencies. Some of
Mhm,
them show angry tendencies. Some of them show anxious tendencies. So in my personal experience, for example, my father showed both narcissistic and angry tendencies, while my mother showed more anxious tendencies. Like my mother was the one to be like, "Oh, don't stay out late. Oh, if you don't study, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that." So, like, I'm the one who will always say and will always be open and honest about my anxiety, but my
mhm,
parents' anxiety, my mom's anxiety, she would never admit to it. It's more so something I would have to analyze through her behavior, so to speak.
mhm,
So, as far as behavioral issues, it's sort of like it's a mixed bag. You know what I mean? It's not just
mhm,
one thing, and it's something that's unfortunately left misdiagnosed or undiagnosed
mhm,
most of the time in the older generation because obviously they didn't really give a crap about mental health growing up.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I guess my main point is that behavioral issues your parents experience will then
mhm,
affect what kind of parenting style they'll use when child rearing.
mhm. So it sounds like you're able to reflect on your internal state of anxiety, whereas your mother's unable to do that. So what do you think the reason is for people or older people in the South Asian community not having a tendency to practice mindfulness?
Well, let me be honest with you. Like I mentioned earlier on this call, when our parents were our age, the main thing they were focused on is survival.
Mhm,
Why? Because they needed to put food on the table. You know what I mean?
mhm,
What that means is that at the end of the day, they didn't have enough time and or energy to invest in their mental health. But the other thing is because mental health was such a taboo for our parents' generation, they also didn't have the communal access to resources or research or tools or activities or professionals that could have allowed them to express and work on their mental health. So part of it is the community part, and part of it is just the resource management part. They simply didn't have enough resources to pursue their mental health or fixing or improving their mental health rather.
mhm. So it seems that we're more so focused on the lower level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where they're fulfilling their desires for getting food, shelter, water, and access to the appropriate resources for survival. I come from the opinion that in order for us to survive, we need to have a proper base of mental health. So I do believe that the fact that we tend to ignore our mental health can contribute to the possibility of us achieving those particular needs.
I strongly agree. I always tell my coworkers, especially, that rest is essential for peak performance. There's a reason that LeBron James, Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, and all these top level athletes dedicate so much time and money and energy into their rest and recovery. You know,
Mhm,
take D Rose, for example. We grew up
mhm,
watching this guy. He was at the top of his game. And what happened to him? He got injured and now he's out of it. You know what I mean? So
mhm,
it's like, if people at the top, at the very, very top of their
mhm,
industry, at the very, very like 99th percentile of income potential, at the very
mhm,
top are investing so much time into rest and recovery, why shouldn't we be? You know what I mean?
mhm,
It only makes sense. In order for your brain and your body to function at their peak, they need
mhm,
rest. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And thankfully, I have a personal trainer now, so he only
mhm,
compounds these thoughts for me. He tells me, Safi, you see me every Friday. Every Friday, you squat, deadlift, and bench. If you don't rest between now and next week, you're not going to perform. And I see it on a daily basis now. I'm going to the gym consistently 3 days a week, and I've only been doing that for about 6 months now, I would say.
mhm,
But I see on a regular basis now, on it in a day to day, in a very practical manner, that if I don't rest, if I don't sleep enough, you know what I mean? If I don't do things I enjoy, that's a really big part of rest because there's not just one form of rest. That's a fallacy. There's a multiple forms of rest. There's physical
mhm,
rest, mental rest, psychological
mhm,
rest, so on and so forth. Having fun in and of itself is a form of rest. You need to get all nine forms of rest, ideally, in order to maintain peak performance. And there's this huge notion these days of hustle culture, and you should be waking up at 3 a.m. and working nonstop and blah with this, blah with that. Listen, man, this may be a bit of an unpopular opinion or a hot take or a controversial opinion, call it what you may.
Mhm,
But in my opinion, at work, 95% of the time, I try to do the bare minimum. Okay.
mhm,
I don't try to be perfect. I try to get results. And obviously,
mhm,
everyone's different. If you're a pilot or a surgeon, you got to do your job right 100% of the time. And
mhm,
unfortunately, you chose that career. So you got to work with what you got. But in my
mhm,
case, I understand that I don't have to go balls to the wall and put in 120% of effort every
mhm,
day, every hour. As long as I get the job done and my
mhm,
clients are happy, then I'm good with that. I'm cool with that.
mhm. Also, there seems to be a sense of diminishing returns where if you work too much, your performance will actually diminish. So you need to find the optimal amount of rest and time for work to be able to perform at your best.
Exactly. No one works, or I would say, I don't want to generalize, so I'm not going to say no one, but I would say the vast majority of people that work a 9 to 5 aren't
Mhm,
working 8 hours nonstop. You know,
mhm,
there's probably a lunch break, there's probably a poop break, there's probably a gather at the water fountain and talk shit about your employees break. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So no one works 8 hours consistently. So even
mhm,
on a day to day during our workday, we have these sort of micro rest breaks we
mhm,
take to make sure our brain um, comes back to its peak state. And
mhm,
for students who might be listening in who may not have a full-time job yet, the benefit of rest in their brain, in their case, is that you need regular breaks. I'm sure you've heard of the Pomodoro method while during your studies. The benefit of taking breaks and resting throughout your studies is that your brain needs time to absorb the information you're studying and transfer it from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. If
mhm,
you're like cramming the night before an exam and you're studying nonstop and drinking energy drinks nonstop and trying to be focused the entire time, odds are you're not going to retain most of the information you're studying. You may do well in the exam, but give it a week or two, and most of that info is going to be gone from your brain. And this is something
mhm,
university students in particular experience very, very regularly. And that's one of the reasons everyone's so critical, or again, I shouldn't generalize, a lot of people are critical of our education system right now, is that it's
mhm,
not an education system, it's a memorization system. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So, bottom line, rest is essential for everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what they believe in, no matter who they pray to at the end of the day, you need rest. Okay? No
mhm.
rest, no good. That's it.
The education system to a memorization system, I fully agree with that. I do think it's not based on long-term memory. It's more so based on short-term
Absolutely.
retention. And I don't want to get controversial on this podcast, but I will gloss over this. I do believe that it's made necessarily to turn people into employees so they can retain things on the short term and not necessarily remember what they had to do afterwards. As then they can turn toward their authority figure, then the authority figure can more so tell them what they need to do. But irregardless, that's a little too controversial right now for us to delve into.
I completely agree though. Let me just put
Mhm,
that out there. You're speaking facts right now in my opinion. But yeah,
mhm.
let's move on.
So the next question is: do you believe that lack of rest contributes to people's social anxiety?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Yeah,
Mhm,
I would definitely say so because now that I am a 30-year-old and I'm a lot more extroverted than I was um like a fresh high school grad.
mhm,
I would say that when your energy is low, your
mhm,
social battery is going to be low.
mhm,
And there's a very famous comedian named Tom Segura. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but one of my favorite jokes by him is he said that no matter where you are, no matter who
mhm,
you are,
mhm,
and no matter how much fun you're having, at the end of the day, the meaning of life is I want to go back home. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
And your energy levels, the only thing your energy levels determine is how long you can tolerate before you go back home. So if your
mhm,
energy levels are high and you have a lot of rest and you're well fed and your mental health's in a good place, odds are your social battery is going to be a lot higher than if you're
mhm,
sleep deprived, you're exhausted, you're stressed out, you're
mhm,
anxious. You're obviously going to want to spend less time outside and go back to your comfort
mhm,
zone, which for most people is at home. Okay.
mhm,
And the other thing is that let me just recycle my thoughts here. Um, Yeah, so you mentioned social anxiety. So one of the things that could lead to social anxiety for someone who doesn't rest consistently is that they're going to be in their head the entire time. They're going to be thinking about,
Mm,
what do I have to do next? Why am I here? I should be working. I
mhm,
should be studying. What about this? What about that? You know? So obviously, we can see naturally how a lack of rest can lead to social anxiety. So I would definitely say
mhm,
there's a correlation there. I'm not going to say go as far as saying causation. We have to do
mhm,
studies to figure that out. You know, they have to
mhm,
be peer reviewed, they have to have a big sample
mhm,
size. But I would say there's a correlation for sure between lack of rest and social anxiety. And I think that's a very, very good question and a cool question. So thanks for asking
mhm.
that.
Yeah, no problem. How are you able to turn yourself from somebody who's a bit more introverted to becoming more extroverted?
Practice, practice, practice. Okay.
Mhm,
So a lot of people ask me, Safi, why have you never had a girlfriend? Okay.
mhm,
And one of the reasons is that when I was fresh out of high school, I didn't look towards, getting it on with the ladies. I look towards, hey, listen, I'm shy. I have to work on my social skills. Okay.
mhm,
And also, thankfully, I learned very early in university. And now that I think about it, I probably learned this in high school at some point, but I probably became more self-aware of it in
mhm,
university, is that I have an easy time making people laugh and making people
mhm,
smile and just feel generally
mhm,
included and accepted. So once I became self-aware of that, it made being social that much more easier because I realized I
mhm,
had this positive effect on people that would sort of
mhm,
ripple outwards, and people would be like, "Oh, you should meet Safi. He's this cool guy. He makes people laugh, blah blah." You know what I mean? So it's sort of exponential in that way, where the more you work on your social skills, the better you get, the better, more your skills improve, and before you know it, you've transitioned from an introvert to an extrovert. But one thing I want to acknowledge before we move on to the next question is that I don't mean to romanticize being extroverted at all, because if you are an introverted person, especially if you're older, you're in your 30s already, you know who you are, you know what your values are, there's nothing wrong with that.
mhm.
Extroverts are cool, and introverts are just as cool. And if you're somewhere in the middle, there's nothing wrong with that either.
So it sounds that it's more so focusing and embracing who you are that serves as the first step towards breaking your social anxiety.
Exactly. And back when I was a shy kid in high school, I didn't know who I was yet. So I couldn't label firmly that I was an introvert. Now I can label I'm an extrovert because I've had all that life experience. And
Mhm,
one thing that people should be self aware of is how they feel after a situation. So, for
mhm,
example, if you're in a crowded room full of people,
mhm,
um, let's say it's a house party, for example, how do
mhm,
you feel at the end of that situation? If you feel
mhm,
happy and energized, odds are you're more on the extroverted side of things. If you feel drained and, like I was joking about earlier, you feel like you want to go back home, you're probably more on the introverted side of things. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So that's something I think everyone could learn from, is
mhm,
focus deeply on how you feel after certain situations. When you're about to head back home, check in with
mhm,
yourself and be like, hey, did I enjoy myself? Did I not enjoy myself? And this is also really, really important for relationships. You know what I
mhm,
mean? When you're finding and choosing a partner and you have a potential person in mind, really focus deep down on how you feel after you spend time with them. And for
mhm,
people that are more on the platonic side of things, and they may be reevaluating their friendships and being like, I don't know if I want to remain friends with this person or not. Same thing. Hang out with them, and when you're done hanging out, check in with yourself and see how you feel, and that'll point you in the right direction.
How did you so what was the difference between the mindset you're in when you had social anxiety and the mindset you're currently in?
Again, I think it would just like boil like in the psychology world, in the therapy world, we call it exposure therapy. Whatever your
Mhm,
fear is, whatever your phobia is, you have to expose yourself to it in order
mhm,
to desensitize your mind and help your mind understand that, okay, this thing isn't a threat to me. Okay.
mhm,
So back in my high school days, it was just a lack of exposure. Didn't put myself in enough social environments for my brain to understand that, okay, we're safe, there's nothing wrong, no one's going to attack us, no one's going to bully us. You know what I mean? So honestly, it's just same point as the last question: practice, practice, practice.
mhm,
And I also really enjoy talking to strangers. You know, Shahab, that I enjoy solo traveling, so that sort of
mhm,
compounds the whole talking to strangers thing. But yeah,
mhm,
I would say talking to strangers is a good first step for anyone
mhm,
who's who wants to alleviate their social anxiety, because when you're talking to a stranger, you have nothing to lose. This person is not going to go tell your friends and family that, oh, Safi's a loser. He was shy and awkward when I talked to him.
Mhm,
Like, you have nothing to lose. So just,
mhm,
you know, go talk to a stranger next time you go to a fast food restaurant, chat up the cashier a little bit. Next time you're riding the bus, talk to the bus driver a little bit. These are
mhm,
situations where you have nothing to lose.
mhm,
As long as you practice and take it one day at a time and you're consistent with it, odds are your social anxiety will improve. Obviously, if there's some deep-rooted trauma that led to your social anxiety, like your relationship with your parents or you were abused at a young age or something like that, that's something you have to work towards healing from. But if you're
mhm.
just, you're run-of-the-mill shy person and you want to get a little more social, you want to feel a little more extroverted and confident in social situations, I would say finding new opportunities, one of which is talking to strangers, is a good first step.
So I'll rephrase the question. Do you mind describing how you felt
Oh,
during
okay.
social anxiety and how you now feel so the audience can get a bit of an understanding of the mind states that you are going through at those moments and the mind state you're going through right now?
So, Shahab, I actually remember one of our previous conversations from a few months back where we were
Mhm,
talking about anxiety, and
mhm,
you had asked me what is anxiety, and I had
mhm,
told you that I like forming analogies to make these concepts easier to understand. So I like thinking about the first word that comes to mind when we think of these concepts. So for me, the
mhm,
first word that comes to mind when we think of anxiety is the word uncertainty. Okay.
mhm,
So going back to my high school days or even my early university days, in social situations, there was a lot of uncertainty about how
mhm,
these people will react to what I say to them, how these
mhm,
people will react to my presence, my energy, my appearance. You know what
mhm,
I mean? Now that I've gone through the practice, and I've
mhm,
exposed myself to a wide spectrum of different social situations,
mhm,
there's no longer that uncertainty, or at least there's vastly less uncertainty than there was before.
mhm,
So I go into these social situations with less anxiety, less expectations, which is another
mhm,
really, really strong point I need to make, is that if you go into, let's say, a house party and you expect to have the best time of your life, and even if you have a little fun, it's still not as much as you had hoped, and therefore
mhm,
you leave disappointed. But if you were to go into that social situation with no expectations, then even if you have a little fun, odds are you're going to be satisfied by the time
mhm,
you go back home. You know what
mhm,
I mean? So uncertainty is a big part of it, and expectations or assumptions rather would be a big part
mhm,
of it as well. I'm sure you've heard of the Four Agreements, a really really famous book, and one of those four agreements is never base your thoughts and decisions off of assumptions. And
mhm.
expectations are just one form of assumptions at the end of the day.
So I'm gonna describe how I felt when I had anxiety. So how I felt is there was a huge roadblock in the way that stopped me from talking to the person.
Mhm.
How do you overcome that roadblock?
But who was this person in particular that you experienced that roadblock with?
So that roadblock would occur anytime I wanted to talk to a girl, anytime I wanted to talk to a guy. So as how I overcame it was, as you discussed, it was through slow exposure. And it was
Mhm,
more so me understanding who I was, because at that point, I would lie about who I wanted to be. But the moment I
mhm,
started reflecting on what I wanted and not focusing on what other people wanted from me, then I was able to shift more towards an internal sense of control. That internal sense of
mhm.
control allowed me to see, okay, what can I do to make the situation better?
Yeah, and
Which
another big part of it is who exactly are these people? If these people aren't individuals that align with your values, that align with your goals, that going back to how you feel at the end of situations are not people you feel good to hang out with, then obviously you're going to experience some level of anxiety and cognitive dissonance when you talk to them, which is something a lot of guys experience in their early 20s, is that they are focused less on technical difficulties?
Bro, my
Did you
mom
get
walked in.
swatted? Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
got
did. My
swatted by
mom
your own
walked
mom?
in.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my bad. I told her I was
Um,
recording too.
no, it's all good. Mummy G just probably wanted to give you a couture, bro.
Oh, she wanted to give me some pomegranate, bro.
Um, but yeah, so basically my point is, if you're spending your time surrounded by people you're not aligned with that don't make you
Mhm,
feel good, and rather than being your own authentic self, you're just trying to fit in, then you
Mhm,
will feel socially anxious
mhm,
talking to them because there's a dissonance between who you actually are and the
mhm,
version of you that you're trying to portray to them. And that's energy
mhm,
intensive, you know what I mean? If you're
mhm,
just being your own jolly, carefree, usual, authentic self, that's a lot
mhm,
less energy intensive than acting. That's essentially what you're
mhm,
doing is you're acting.
yeah,
You're trying to be
mhm,
someone you're not. And that's a
mhm,
lot more draining than just being who you really are. Does it make sense?
mhm. Yeah,
Makes
that
sense.
makes a lot of sense. So the difference
Mhm.
between how they portray themselves in public and who they are in private.
Yeah,
And the
there's a
more
difference
there's a
between who you are at the workplace, who you are with your friends, with your family, who you are at home, and especially who you are alone. And that's
Mhm,
one reason I advocate so much for solo traveling. And
mhm,
obviously, I'm saying this from a place of privilege because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to solo travel in their early
mhm,
20s. But one thing you learn when you solo travel and you're not bound by anyone else's expectations or schedule is you learn
mhm,
who do I want to talk to? How do I want to behave? How do I want to present myself? And most importantly, how do I want to spend my time? Because
mhm,
as we all know, time is the most valuable resource in this world. Why?
mhm,
Because if you don't sleep, you can sleep the next night. If
mhm,
you don't make money one day, you can make money the next day. But
mhm,
if you waste time. Unfortunately, everyone's got to die. You can't get that time back. So one of the
mhm.
most powerful things any guy in his 20s, in his younger years can do is realize and understand and accept how does he want to spend his time.
So
Mhm.
what got you into stand-up comedy? And do you mind giving us a story about one of the craziest experiences you had being a stand-up comedian?
So again, circling back to earlier in our call, I had mentioned that once I became self-aware of how powerful my sense of humor was, it's something I wanted to continue investing in. Okay.
Mhm,
And so for me, stand-up comedy was just another way I could sort of extend and take advantage of that talent that I had. Um, in my earlier 20s, I considered it more of a lucrative thing that, oh, besides all the like social benefits, and working on my social skills this will allow me to do, maybe it'll also help me generate an income. Now, because people change very rapidly, there's this fallacy that once you're 25 or 30 or 35, you're not going to change anymore. That's completely false. People change very, very dynamically. That's one of the biggest reasons for divorce, actually, is because people 10, 15, 20 years into their marriage aren't the same people who they were before. So that's something I want to acknowledge. I was a lot more passionate about stand-up comedy back in the day than I am now. But regardless, I'm still passionate about being funny and making people laugh. So I guess that's ultimately what it boiled down to. It was something I was passionate about, and it helped me work on those social skills we've been talking about this entire call.
What do you think the first 3, 4 steps are to get somebody who has social anxiety to begin developing their social skills?
The first step would be accept that you have an issue that you want to work on. Because if you think there's nothing that needs to be changed and you don't think you need help, then odds are nothing is going to change. So I would say that's a very important first step. First step, accept that there is a problem.
Mhm,
Step number two, tell someone about it. Okay. One of the biggest um, one of the biggest decisions, most powerful and beneficial decisions I made in my life, and this was relatively recently, was during COVID actually, was I accepted that I'm not the type of person, at least not right now, at least not yet, inshallah, maybe in the future, but right now, I am not the type of person who can complete and pursue and stay consistent with a fitness journey without a personal trainer. Okay.
mhm,
And once I got that personal trainer and we started vibing, again, exponential. The progress I saw was exponential. Now I'm squatting 2 plates, I'm deadlifting 3 plates. I hope to be benching 2 plates within the next year. And these are very firm goals I'm working towards. But my point is learn when you need to ask for help. So, step number one, accept that there's a problem. Two, go tell someone about it. Don't keep it all up here. And then step three, make small incremental daily changes that can help you pursue your goal. So, like I said, one small change you can make if you have social anxiety is the next time you go to the fast food or grocery, whatever it is, gas station, chat up the cashier for a couple seconds. You know what I mean? So, Third step, I guess, is small incremental daily changes. And fourth step, well, I don't know. At that point, I feel like everyone's fourth step is going to be a little different based on what their specific goals and issues are. So how about that? How about I give you the first three steps, and for the fourth
Mhm.
step, you buy my paid course for $200. How about that? Okay, is that good enough of an answer?
I think you mark it up to $500 and I get a 20% cut for promotion.
I'll upcharge it. I'll give them the premium version that includes your feet pics. How about that? Okay, let's.
Oh, I think I fully agree with this. You'll find all of the information down below. Book a Calendly session with them for one free coaching call. Then after that, it's $500 per month. How does that
Perfect.
sound?
Let's do it. That's
Of
perfect.
course. So, so one issue I do find is we can give people as many roadmaps as we want, but they still won't have the courage to go and take that first step. Now, how do you get the necessary courage to take that first step? What can the person do right now that's not necessarily exposure therapy? Because exposure therapy, it takes time.
Mhm.
So what's like a quick fix they can do?
Well, I think it's not even a quick fix really, but it's just talk to people, man. Like for example, like if you're a guy who's in his young 20s and you're dealing with like let's say you're dealing with acne or you're dealing with body dysmorphia or you're dealing with anxiety from schoolwork, from parental pressure like we discussed, the easiest thing you can do is go to your friends and talk to them about it. Odds
Mhm,
are, even if they don't resonate with what you're talking about, they'll know someone who does. Okay,
mhm,
so one thing that really helps us become courageous is realizing that the way we feel is a normal. We're not abnormal. We're not mutants. There's plenty
mhm,
of other people out there um, who feel or experience the same things we do. So I guess you
mhm,
could call it, going back to your four steps from earlier. I guess that could be like a step zero in and of
mhm,
itself, is sort of like understanding that your situation isn't unique. There's plenty of other people that feel the same way. You know what
mhm.
I mean?
So the reason I'm bringing this up, because I want the audience to understand, I want you, the listener, to understand. Everything simply comes down to what? Taking action. Actually go out and talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Actually go out
And it
and
doesn't
begin.
it doesn't need to be a public speech. You
Mhm,
know, as like I said, as long as you talk to the cashier for a few seconds, that's all it
mhm.
takes. You know what I mean? And it's baby
Yeah.
steps.
Mhm,
One day you talk to someone for 10 seconds, the next day you talk to someone for a minute, and before you know it, you're on that stage doing what you want to do. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And it's all about, one of the biggest, most powerful lessons my personal trainer taught me is the concept of imperfect consistency.
Mhm,
Meaning, every day you don't need to be perfect, but
mhm,
every day make sure you try, even if it's just a little bit.
mhm,
One day you might do your bench press for 12 reps. One day you might manage only 8 reps. But the
mhm,
name of the game is make sure you go and bench press every
mhm.
day, no matter
Yeah.
how much you're able to do.
Yeah, and that comes down to the point where all these virtues, such as courage or a muscle, the only way you can build it is by exposing yourself to a sense of difficulty or taking in the reps.
Exactly. Like, let's take Perseus or Theseus from Greek mythology, you know?
Mhm,
The reason they're as courageous as they are is because they had to go through trials and tribulations. If you
mhm,
eliminate the trials and tribulations, then you also essentially eliminate the courage, you know? And these are examples, and you already know this idea, but some of your viewers may not know. It's the idea of the hero's journey.
mhm,
Without adversity, without
mhm,
pain, without suffering, and most importantly, without trial and error, there will
mhm,
be no progress. And
mhm,
progress is only conducive of more progress. Like I said,
mhm,
exponential. The more you do, the better you'll
mhm,
get. So make sure you're presenting yourself with these challenges and
mhm,
obstacles. Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen. You know,
mhm,
if you want to change, you have to put yourself in an environment conducive of that change. Otherwise,
mhm,
no change will happen. If
mhm.
anything, you might change for the worst instead, which obviously no one wants.
Awesome. Let's move on to the final topic. The final topic will end off with a fun one. Briyani or Nihari?
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Is this a serious question, by the way? Because I'm about to go in if this is a serious question.
This is a serious, super serious question.
Okay, so let's educate the viewers real quick because I'm sure some of the viewers may not know what biryani and nahari are. So first and foremost, biryani is a very, very famous rice dish. Um, that's common throughout the Indian subcontinent, particularly in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India itself. And nihari is a slow cooked beef stew, traditionally eaten by the Muslim population, particularly in the early hours of the morning. Okay. And in both these cases, I have a strict rule where I only eat my mom's biryani and I only eat my mom's nihari. Okay. That being said, I much prefer nihari to biryani. Maybe it's just the carnivore side of me. Okay, Shahab's happy about that one. Shahab's happy about that one. Yeah, Nihari's the what do you call it? The underdog. The nihari is definitely the underdog in this question, and I would say it knocks biryani way out of the park, bro. Nihari is absolutely delicious, bro. A little bit of lemon, a little bit of sliced ginger, a little bit of cilantro. Have that with some fresh roti or naan, bro. Chef's kiss. End the call. That's it. End the call right now. That's all we needed. That's all we needed.
I'd like to end on this point. Musab, we're calling you out here. You're out of us two. You're the only one that
Boo!
makes biryani. Only one that makes biryani.
Boo!
Hey,
Boo! He was just catering to the populace, okay? He was just making sure we didn't get any rude emails or texts after this meeting. No, I'm firmly Team Nahari. From the womb to the tomb, I am Team Nahari.
Oh, I like that. From the womb to the two, Team Nahari. I would put that
Yeah.
over a tombstone, actually. All right. I do believe this is a perfect place to end it. So I usually end it with, are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I am both entertained and hungry after that last question. So I'm definitely gonna go. I don't know if we got it in a hurry, but definitely gonna go find something to eat. But thank you so much for having me on the call. It was a pleasure talking to you both as a friend and as a podcast host. I hope you the best of luck in your endeavors, especially during this holy month of Ramadan. And to all future viewers and podcast guests, I hope this isn't the last time you ask them this question. I hope the biryani versus Nahari debate continues well into the future, even though we obviously know who the winner is. But thank you so much, Shahab, for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll have you again for a part two to go more into other details.
For sure. I'm sure people will still have social anxiety by the time we do part two.
I think I think we've destroyed a couple of people's social anxiety on this podcast.
Hope so, bro. Even if you help one person, you know,
Mm.
that's more than zero. Anything's more than zero. So even if we help one single person off this episode, that's more than enough for me.